Good morning and welcome to Conversations with Buddy. We record these podcasts at the Rec Podcast Recording Studio here in Kaiser, Oregon. We drop a new podcast every Friday morning with a new story that will impact someone. We hope that someone is you. Please take a moment to rate, review, subscribe, and share this podcast episode on your favorite social media platform. We want to get these messages out to the people and impact the world one testimony at a time. This morning, I'm excited to bring to you my guest, Justin Simnitt. Justin, welcome.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Dude, it's St. Patrick's Day too, right?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh,
dude,
no.
I totally came without any greens. So
I'll have to check my socks, but
so
I think...
if you punch me, I'll know why.
There you go.
All right. And we mentioned sarcasm, maybe a second language in this group here.
Possibly,
so if we hear a little sarcasm, we're totally good with that.
Yep, I think so.
Well, cool. I'm going to introduce you and just kind of tell a little bit of the audience of what I know about you. You gave me a few more things to think about and
Sounds good.
to say. But we're going to learn something about you today that maybe we didn't know. And I always learn something about people that I've known for a long time. But so I really enjoy these times so I get to know who you are better.
Yeah.
And really for the people get to know who you are as well.
Mm-hmm.
So here's what I know about you. You're a husband, married to a lady named Megan.
Certainly am.
And you married up there. Good job.
Yep.
You got 3 boys.
I do.
Ages.
6, 4, and 2.
Names.
Isaiah, Jackson, and Luke.
And Luke. Those boys are cute, man.
They certainly are. Yeah. Yep. They're a lot of fun.
It's awesome. Well, I know you're a golf lover because I've golfed with you before, and you're an extremely good golfer compared to my golf game. So
Maybe some days. Yeah.
No,
that's the fun part about golf it's, can you join the PGA Tour or do you even have hands anymore?
Exactly.
Golf has a way of doing that to
when
you.
people go, hey, you have a handicap? I go, no, I am handicapped.
Yeah, there you go. I might steal that one.
Yeah. Well, I know you're a Jesus follower, a realtor. How long have you been a realtor?
I've been doing it for, almost 9 years now.
Dude, time flies.
Yes. Yep.
You had mentioned you were a former accountant.
I was.
And I think I knew you early on those days. So as that former accountant.
Yep. Helped me get my first house. That's,
Life changed a little bit. You became a real estate agent. And do you think you'd ever go back to being an accountant?
I hope not. There's some aspects of it that, the steadiness of it and whatnot, that worked out well at the time. But I love chasing new challenges. And so, real estate fit in pretty well as we were praying about kind of what transition we were wanting to make with my career. Yeah.
And I think one thing you wrote down is you love new challenges, which is kind of what you just segued there in. I know you as Justin Simnitt, a real estate agent. We go to church together, so I know you in those aspects. But learning more about you, that you're actually the guy that loves new challenges, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And that sarcasm is your second language, and maybe sometimes your first language. I'm not sure.
Yep.
That's cool. Yep. I like that.
Yep. As I go out the door to come to this, my wife's just like, good luck. You're going to do a great job. Hey, keep the sarcasm to a minimum if at all possible. That'd be great. That. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. You don't use sarcasm with your wife, do you?
No, never.
Okay. All right. You're a sports enthusiast. What does that mean?
I like watching football. I grew up kind of living, breathing basketball. And then my age caught up to me. So now just watch my kiddos play and play with them from time to time. Yeah. So, yeah. And
how old are you, Justin, for the audience?
I am 34.
34?
Yep.
Wow, yeah. So I knew you 9 years ago. So you're 27, 26, 25, something like that.
Yep. I've been going to Salem Heights for 11 or 12 years now.
Nice. And the last thing here is kind of funny is you're an aspiring wannabe farmer, as you say. You bought a new property. And okay, tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll segue into some deeper questions. But what do you have for, what does farmer mean to you? Is it animals? Is it agriculture? What is it?
Well, we're trying to do a little bit of both. A very, not the best, but trying our best. So, with loving new challenges and whatnot, this is something we've wanted to do for a long time. Yeah. And so growing up, Christmas was always huge to me. And so kind of a lifelong dream was to start a Christmas tree farm. And so we bought this property thinking, oh man, this would be a pretty sweet spot for it. And so we're really praying about if we're going to do that down the road. We just had a couple cows and did that for beef. this past year, and it was, a pretty fun experience for us that, we're not certain if we're going to go back to the Christmas tree way, but, and then, it's kind of goofing around trying to start a garden right now. But, really I think especially during COVID and just how life is trending, everything's just so indoors, everything's looking at screens, and having the 3 boys that we have, we were really excited about providing, not that you can't just, in a normal size backyard or whatnot, but to be able to train up these boys to be able to be working outside quite a bit more and just enjoying being outside more. And, funny to say that when it snowed 3 days ago or whatever it was, and spring's supposed to be right around the corner. But that was kind of a big calling on our hearts to be able to have some more space to host and really to enjoy the outdoors.
Yeah. How many acres you guys got?
We got about 5.5.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
What a cool deal.
Yeah.
To find 5 acres. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, I think raising your boys on a farm where you have cows and maybe some chickens and work. You know, one of the best lessons I learned early on was teaching my girls how to work. The one lesson I learned from my dad and mom was working is a great gift.
Yep.
And farmers are hard workers.
They certainly are. So anytime somebody says, "Oh, Farmer Justin," I said, "No, that's an insult to farmers. Please don't say that."
That's funny. That's funny. Well, cool. Well, hey, I want to kind of ask some questions, kind of get to know who Justin is.
Okay.
Where'd you grow up? What was family like growing up? And like where were you? Where are you today? And then where are you going to go? That's kind of our little rhythm of what we do.
Perfect.
So tell us about Justin.
Yeah. So I grew up in just outside Portland, Beaverton area. I have a mother and then 3 identical triplet sisters that are 2 years younger than I am. So that was always the fun fact, growing up.
Didn't know that one about you, man.
What's something different about you? The identical triplet sisters. That's the one. So,
wow.
Yeah. So that was quite the experience for sure. But grew up there. Like I said, kind of lived, breathed different sports. Had a relatively good home life. Went to a small private school for a while, went to a public school to try to pursue basketball a bit more. Then ended up going back to the private school, realizing very quickly that sports aren't everything in life. And, the group of friends I'd grown up with was a really impactful thing. Yeah. My dad left when I was around 14 or 15, which is the time that I tried to go to public school for sports, and then came back after that, knowing that was a pretty big struggle to not have the people I loved around me and, with that. So, that's kind of a little bit about growing up. Yeah.
So you're the older brother of 3 younger triplet sisters.
Yeah.
Okay. You go to private school. Where'd you go to high school?
So I went to, it's called Faith Bible High School. And so growing up, it was Faith Bible Christian School, which was just combining all the Jesus-y words that you can into one school. It was a kind of a funny thing. And then I went to Aloha High School for a couple years.
Gotcha. Aloha's out in Hillsboro area.
Yeah, kind of Hillsboro, Beaverton area. Yeah. So, yeah.
And then your sport of choice in high school, was it basketball then or was it football?
It was basketball. It should have been baseball. 6-foot white guy wasn't going to go super far in basketball, but
never know.
Man, I loved it. It was kind of what I breathed into. Yeah.
Was your basketball team like? Were you 3A, 6A? What were you at the time, and how well did you guys do in high school?
Let's see, we were 2A at the private school, and then. It was right around the transition that 6A even became a thing. So I think it was 6A at Aloha. And for the private school, got not player of the year, but on like the top 3 conference teams or whatever. And so looking back on that was a fun experience. But going to public school, and I went from a school of, the high school maybe had 200 people to it to it was probably 3,000 at Aloha. And,
Right.
you figured out pretty quickly that, you're relatively good for smaller schools and very mediocre for, the bigger schools.
Small fish in a big pond.
For sure.
Okay, so you grew up in a private Christian school, went to a non-Christian high school.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned your dad left around when you were age 14 or 15.
Mm-hmm.
What happened?
Not to go into too many specifics. I think my dad dealt with a lot of demons, kind of throughout his childhood. And, I've got a solid rock of a mother. And so that's what I've always been, very blessed by. And then, good grandparents and whatnot. But, my dad was kind of, my whole world. It was my dad was 6'7", played, pretty high up in college and whatnot. And so, it was one of those that, I think I loved basketball, but I think I loved pleasing him even more. And these accolades and whatnot through sports was one way I felt loved because, it was one of those like, oh, good job doing this. And, if you weren't doing it, it was, what are you doing? I go out there and work harder. And so, I remember growing up and essentially after school being locked outside for an hour each day, go play basketball by yourself. You're going to hone your skills. And it was one of those that, as a kid, you kind of trick yourself into saying, yeah, I love this, but you just loved not disappointing your dad. And so, that's
I wonder how many kids live their life. I mean,
for sure,
pleasing a parent rather than living out their life. And, and then, we'll get into where maybe how you are different with your boys. So I don't want to get there yet, but, so your dad leaves. Are you still in touch with your dad?
At the moment, no. It was a pretty long, drawn out break. That was, pretty painful for our family. Yeah. So
still close with your mom?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very close with my
How about
mother.
your sisters?
Yep. Close with my sisters too.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And where do they live at?
So they actually just moved from Tualatin closer this way. They saw us living on a little bit of property and thought, that looks fun. So
let's do it.
They're in the midst of all the fun stuff with, coming up with projects and whatnot.
Totally.
So they've been loving it out there too.
Cool. That's awesome. Where'd you go to college at?
So I went to Corbin.
Okay.
So that's a fun, kind of interesting story. So I was scheduled to go to a different school, and I won't say the school's name. And so my mom and I are jumping around to these schools and interviews with scouts and whatnot. And so I specifically remember sitting watching this school's basketball game, and I go use the restroom and come on out, and my mom's white as a ghost walking towards me saying, nope, we're out of here. You're not going here. And at that point it was, half ride, 3/4 ride or something. And this was, late spring. So we're closing in the time that schools are accepting people. Come to find out the school or the scout propositioned her saying, if you go on a date with me, I might be able to get your son a bit more scholarship money.
Interesting.
Yeah, super interesting. And so I ended up at Corbin because they were the ones that gave me the most grant money for a single mother with 4 children. So that's how I ended up at Corbin, and never looked back.
So you're getting scouted for basketball? Is that what the
I was.
The scholarship was for?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you played at Corbin?
It was too late to play at Corbin, and then I ended up getting a full-time job while at Corbin, and just decided it was a bit too late for me, and I really enjoyed the student life aspect of it, but with a full-time job, it was ended up being a bit too much to take on, and one of the main regrets I have is not pursuing that a bit more.
Right. That was one of my questions. Was there any regret not pursuing basketball in college?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, but it all worked out.
Hindsight's always 20/20, though. We can always learn, gosh, wish I would have, but you can't change it.
It's true.
It is what it is, and how have you moved forward, and how have you channeled some of that competitiveness that you have? Maybe it's in golf, maybe it's in real estate. Both of those are challenging
for sure
things to do. So I love that. All right, so the $1 million question is this lady Megan.
Yeah.
Tell us a story about how you and Megan met, because I think it's a great story. You guys have a beautiful family. You're really blessed, by the way.
I certainly am.
I hope you know that, and I think you do. but sometimes you need a reminder. We all need this reminder that
For sure.
how blessed we are. So how'd you meet her, and how'd you get lucky enough to marry her?
Yeah, so we both went to Corbin. We kind of knew of each other at Corbin, but didn't really know each other too well.
Yeah.
So I had a friend of mine who I was in his wedding, and he made us, we were wearing the cords and suspenders. And so she had come to that wedding. She was a friend of his as well. And so I always say the outfit is what really sold me to her. So a group of us went after the wedding, to a restaurant to kind of hang out. And still not knowing her too well, just saw a pretty blonde girl.
Yeah.
Started talking with her a bit more. And I was pretty confident back in the day with that. And I think I may have dropped, some sort of line, just within this group of 15 people that we're hanging out with, just saying, hey, if ever you're in Portland, look me up. I'd love to go hang out with you. And, we went on a quote unquote friend get to know each other date a couple weeks later, and the rest is history.
The rest is history.
Yeah.
That's funny. So Justin was confident back in those days. Is that what you're saying? Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say if you're confident with the ladies now when you're married.
Oh, yeah.
I'm confident that I love my wife. So that's
no,
what I'm confident
I was
in,
saying just confident in being the same guy going, yeah, I like you. And are you an extrovert or introvert?
I'd say I'd probably lean more introvert. I'm probably an extroverted introvert that I can, I liven up in groups, but also may need to take a nap after a big social event. So
I think you and I have had this conversation. I'm somewhere extroverted, introvert. Yeah, that sounds about right.
That actually surprised me when you said,
totally.
you lean more introverted side. Yeah.
It's funny how we can give a perception that we're actually something that we're actually not.
Yeah.
In fact, I thought for years, my entire life until probably 3, 4, 5 years ago, I did a personality profile test, maybe Myers-Briggs or something. I'm like, oh, wait, I'm introverted. That's interesting. I always thought I was extroverted. Like, what's wrong with me? Nothing's wrong with me.
Yeah. Well, it's also just a different dynamic of, being charged by people or being charged by one-on-one deep conversations. And I feel like both of us are a bit more familiar in that.
Yeah. And I love meeting with specifically guys just to hang out. It's one of my favorite things to do. But it also does drain my batteries. So by the end of the day, I'm tired, but it's the thing I love really most, or at least the thing I love most about my days is meeting with guys like you and Daryl and whoever else. So.
Yep. And I think COVID really solidified that because even introverted people need community. And so, I'm one that loves to, after a day of work to just go hang out with my wife and kiddos and, go plan fun things for us to do.
Yeah.
But you really need to rub shoulders with people around you. I think the age of, what our pastor called it the other day, I think consumer church, where you kind of just sit back, turn on the TV and, watch for a little bit. Yeah. You really do need to, I think they say iron sharpens iron. And so just rubbing shoulders. That's the lesson that I've learned with, not necessarily having that male role model to look up to. Man, go find one. Go rub shoulders with peers around you. And, I think in our stage of life with little kiddos, there's a lot to learn. And there's, there's days that are very draining. And so, whether it be a Bible study, whether it be, getting coffee with friends from time to time, you truly have to remind, yourself and others that you're not alone, that we all go through a lot of the same struggles. And
we're all suffering, right? We're all somehow struggling with some type of pain. I think you do it well. I mean, I see you interact with your wife and your boys. What would be your message, to everybody? Because your life isn't perfect, and where do you struggle? How do you show up for Megan? How do you show up for your boys? Maybe in a way your dad wasn't able to. Again, we're not trying to pick on your dad.
Yeah.
I mean, life does happen, but
for sure.
How would you change that?
Yeah, it's tough to say when they're this young of an age. I think as they get older, it's going to prove that, okay, has God really transformed my heart? A lot of, after he left growing up, it was a lot of, okay, I know what not to do. I know I want to do kind of the opposite of, and again, not to pick on him, but, it was very brash. It was, after basketball games, parents would come to my mom and say, why do you let him talk to you like that, or talk to your son like that? Or, does your son have a complex? Or yes and yes.
Yeah.
It's a thing that drives me, doing real estate and, other things, but, I'd say I wish that drive would have happened maybe in a different way. And so, right now, man, just loving every second with those little boys, because you just know, man, the blink of an eye, they're gonna grow up to be men soon. And so, check back with me in about 10 years. But
I'm checking on you. I'm praying for you too. Because I always say this, but the way your boys will be impacted by you, Justin, is the way you love your wife.
Yeah.
And how you serve her. And they're watching. They're not listening to you.
For sure.
They're watching you. And I always know that if my kids were ever misbehaving or whatever, it was actually my responsibility. Like, what was I doing incorrectly? But yeah, dude, it's raising kids is being married, number one, and then raising kids, number two, is very humbling.
It certainly is.
Because you can't do it on your own. If you're not in a position seeking the Lord daily, with that dose of humility, it's not going to work out.
Yep, they'll bring it. They'll bring it out of you pretty quickly. Like, that's my flesh. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
that's fun.
I'm sure this never happened to you, but I can tell different stories happened to me. So yeah, dude, that's awesome. What do you guys do for fun for you and your family? I know you're farming. You're learning that whole season. Yeah. But what else do you guys do for fun? What are you doing with how do you date Megan? What do you do with your boys? What's it look like? Yeah. Well, I mean, dates, we're trying to get more and more nailed down. We try to be as purposeful as possible. The praise and prayer nights happen at church. And so we try to get a babysitter to come, a couple hours early, and we'll try to make that a date night. But as far as going on dates, that's definitely one thing we can get a little bit better at is, finding a babysitter, maybe asking parents to step in a bit more. But we do love hanging out with those kiddos and never want them to feel that they're, they are second. Obviously my wife is first to me, and we've had those discussions several times, but that we only go do fun things when it's just mom and dad. So, but yeah, that is one thing we're trying to work on a bit more is, more check-in time. And currently I'm working from home. We have an office there. And so I am home quite a bit, and we do get to spend quite a bit of time together throughout the day. And, obviously in this job, nights and weekends can be a bit more busy. So trying to be more purposeful about, this is breakfast, hang out with dad time, or, dad has an hour for lunch. Sweet. Let's hang out. So, but yeah, for fun, it's, I think just getting outside as much as possible. The two olders are really starting to show more interest in different sports and whatnot. So, going to play basketball and, going to the driving range from time to time and just goofing around out there. But, I think we've had a goal of hosting a different family, each week. Wow. And so, our nights fill up pretty quickly. Megan leads a Bible study on Tuesday. I lead one on Wednesday, and she does what she does with the women's conference, and so it's finding that balance of being busy with good things, but not being too busy. So I'm already imagining your schedule. Tuesday nights is her night for Bible study. Yours Wednesday night. You get your bringing a family over. That's maybe Friday or Saturday night. You're busy, and you're showing houses Monday and Thursday and Saturday. Whatever. You're going pretty fast and trying to be purposeful and intentional at the same time. Yep. That's an exercise that takes work for sure. So hats off to you, man, for working through that. It's a season, by the way, for sure. You'll blink, and your kids will be older, and they'll be like, "Yeah, Dad, I'm out of here. I'm 16 or 18, or I'm heading off to college." So careful when you blink. For sure, and that's what we talk about is. Even if it's all good things, being too busy with too many good things is still too busy. Our first ministry is my first ministry is to my wife and children. And so your kids won't remember that, Dad did a lot of these cool things at church or for, doing work. They'll just remember, man, I wish Dad was around a bit more. And so I think that's one of those things that you asked, how are you doing things different? It's just being there, not doing anything special, but
really getting down on their level. And it's something I have to pray about every morning is, getting down on their level. And so.
Yeah, those are cute boys. That's good, man. Being intentional and getting down their level. Love that.
Yeah.
What does, as you're a real estate agent,
Mm-hmm.
what's your season look like right now? I mean, I know it's been a good couple years, and all of a sudden the market's changed a little bit. How's that affecting you? You've been doing this for 9 years now.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a built-in clientele.
For sure.
What's that look like for you? Does it feel like it's maybe dipped a little bit, but yet you're still able to sustain? What's that look like?
I mean, we're in a season right now where it's never been busier, and
Crazy.
We don't believe in luck. We feel like God is laying this before us. When you sit back and realize, every bit of business that you are able to attend to is provided by God, it's a really humbling thing. And so, whether it's slow seasons, because we've had, people come up to us and, say, being a realtor must be really good right now. Things are just going nuts everywhere. Like, yeah. And then in the back of your mind, like, oh man, yeah, it almost makes it worse when it's a bit slower.
Yeah.
And then seasons like this where it's like, oh man, like how are you and your family doing? And, with the stuff we're doing around the house and around the property and then work, like we don't have a minute to blink right now. And so we feel very fortunate right now. And so, but yeah, I mean, that's a big part of this business is, not getting too high when seasons are high and not getting too low when seasons are low. And then, learning that humble experience of, it's a funny mix in this business that it's, your name and you promote yourself, but you're trying to promote Jesus along with you. And then just knowing that, you can fall into a trap of when times are really good, like, wow, look at what I'm doing, not, God, thank you so much for what's happening. How can I best cater to the people that you've laid before me? Because your business is, Justin Simnitt. And so that's been quite the experience to learn. And like you said, being in it 9 years, the ups and downs of it when we first started, coming from being an accountant for 5 years was holy smokes, this is really great, or holy smokes, I've made the biggest mistake of my life on a week-to-week basis.
And here you are 9 years later.
Here we are.
What I like about what you're saying, though, is, you're not too high, you don't get too high, you don't get too low when the market's shifting, but through it all, you're giving God the glory.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you got just enough both ways,
Yep.
Oh, Lord, is this all I need? Yep.
For sure.
Yep. So, and really rely on the Lord. I think that's the dose of humility we all need. You ever compare the commission life, the real estate life, to your golf game? Sometimes you hit a bad shot. I was like, oh, okay.
Yep.
Now, I still got to keep moving forward. I got to finish this hole.
Yep.
So for me, I love golf as an analogy for life for me.
It certainly is.
And usually it's more humbling than I care. It's like, I didn't want this humility here, but apparently that's where I need to be.
Yep.
So, but that's why I love golf too. I probably don't love golf quite as much as you. I'm starting to.
Yeah.
But yeah. So tell me about that when you're out golfing. What's that look like for you when you're having a bad shot or thinking, okay. How does that compare to?
Well, that's where the self-deprecating can come out. I think it's probably an interesting, maybe fun, maybe not fun experience to golf with me because I'm, a pretty big cheerleader for other people, and yet, self-positive talk may not necessarily be in my repertoire, and just not even thinking about it.
Interesting.
So bad shots. Some of the thoughts that run through your head is, Well,
I've golfed with you a few times, and we've been to Sun River and Vince's 50th birthday party. Remember that? With some pain and some rain and cold and But I don't always recognize your self-talk because a lot of times maybe it's not outwardly verbal, but it's interesting to hear that you actually say it because I have my own language in my head, like, oh, what an idiot, whatever it is. Wrong language. Hey, easy. Where I'm encouraging you and I talk bad to myself.
For sure.
So maybe there's a lesson there. We can actually have some positive self-talk too, and be encouraging to ourselves because I think sometimes we show other people grace and mercy and encouragement, but yet for ourselves, we give ourselves no room or no slack.
Certainly. Yep.
So
and when you try to there's a difference between, holding yourself to a high standard and holding yourself to a standard that you're never going to meet.
Right.
And golf's one of those things for sure. Like, man, I'm playing terrible. I haven't, I love golf. I love doing this. Oh, wait, I haven't swung a club in 2 months. Yeah, maybe that's why I don't pick up a club and am automatically Tiger Woods. But I think there's a lot of life lessons to learn. In golf for sure.
Do you think you're going to get your boys really heavy into golf? Like, is that one of those things, or do you care? Is that important to you?
I wouldn't say it's important to me. I think before having kids, it was one of those like, oh, I can't wait till they do this sport and this sport and this sport. And now it's just whatever they want to pursue. I'd love for them to have the avenue to be able to do that. I was forced a lot of sports on me. And so, again, who's to say I wouldn't choose to do it? And maybe, you ask my mom, it was, you say you were forced to do it, but you were begging me like, hey, Justin, maybe we should take a break. No, I don't want to take a break. But so we'll see. Basketball's been something they've been interested in. We've done T-ball. And so, and then obviously navigating that with 3 children as they get older. So we'll see. But church wasn't, because we were gone for sports so much, church wasn't necessarily at the forefront. And so that's definitely something different. My wife came from maybe a bit more legalistic, we're never going to miss church, church above everything else. And I came from, we'll try to fit in church where we can. And so, really teaching our boys that church and the community at church and serving at church really is a very important thing. And we're not all going to put our lives on hold, especially for, 8-year-old basketball or, whatever the case. So, Yeah, I grew up in a legalistic church as well, so I know about that. We didn't, at some point in time, we didn't miss church on Sundays, but I get that. It's important to be a community. I know you're involved in Bible study. You said you lead a men's Bible study. Yeah.
How many guys are in your group?
I think there's about 10 guys. Yep.
Okay.
Yep, Daryl's one of those
guys.
One of those
guys. You guys came here and did some bowling. Daryl was bragging, by the way, so I just want you to know. Oh, yeah, you guys went bowling. He got a turkey, and
he did have a good game. Yeah, we had a fun little competition. I think 8 of us were able to come, and so...
And whoever lost had to sing or something?
Yeah, so we had time for 3 games. Yeah. So whoever won 2 games had to wear a tie to church the next day. And so we got blown out the first 2 games. I think we had a guy that bowled a 60 one of the times and an 80 one of the times, and I'm no good either, but... then we just said, hey, for all the marbles, they have karaoke going on over there. Yeah. I think they were a little high and mighty, and all of us were like, no, we are not singing karaoke. Not losing, and brought our best game. And so
you won.
They gave a very mediocre rendition of Don't Stop Believing. So,
oh, that's funny, dude. Yeah. That is hilarious. Well, dude, this has been fun. We'll wrap up here in a few moments, but what does the next 5 or 10 years look like for the Simnitt family?
Yeah.
What do you guys want? What are some goals, dreams, desires, travel, plans, passions? What's that look like for you?
Yeah. I mean, that's a good question. I think kind of doing what we're doing. So my wife actually joined. Anytime you see any business I do, it's Justin and Megan Simnitt. And, obviously an integral part to what we do. Social media has been a pretty big thing for our business because, it's essentially free advertising. Yeah. There's so much stuff that you can pay into as a realtor, and a lot of that we haven't found a ton of value in. So when I first started, I can't stand social media.
Same. But I find myself on there, so it's really weird.
It is true. It is some mindless. Where did that last half hour go? But so when we first started, she was doing my social media, and at the time we learned, we could get in a lot of trouble if you're doing social media and you don't have your license. And so that's kind of how it started was, we wanted to market ourselves as a husband-wife team. She could do the social media. I do most of the other stuff. And so we've kind of gone into she has a background in interior design. So when we have listings, she'll walk through and give interior design tips, how to get ready for photos and whatnot. And it's been a pretty big joy to work with my wife. And so, really praying about how that goes for business from here on out, if we just want to stay us and if we want to add anybody else. But, so that's been good. But I think kind of just more of the same. We'd love to get out and travel more with the boys. And, it's always a tricky thing that the height of our season is summertime when, school's done and whatnot. So balancing, not just her and the boys go on these trips during the summer months, and dad has to stay home at work, really finding that balance of, okay, how can this be covered? But, kind of just doing more of the same, loving on those kiddos, loving on my wife. And,
I love your social media. I mean, it's awesome you and Megan can do that together. She has a lot of creative stuff that
she does.
Maybe that's not your lane.
Not maybe, definitely.
Yeah, definitely not. Okay.
Yeah.
But it's pretty cool. I mean, I don't know that, but that's pretty cool to hear that.
Yep.
That you guys can work together. She's the creative one. You're the, go out and sell the homes and make that happen. But that's a great teamwork. Okay. Lastly, before we end this show, what is something's on your mind, on your heart, something you want to share maybe we didn't talk about that would just bless somebody? And maybe you don't have anything, maybe you do, and either way is okay, but...
Yeah. I mean, kind of just off the cuff, the community aspect, I think, especially for men, we are so designed to say, oh, I got this, and just for the longest time, I mean, even, dumb high school, college student, you know nothing, but you think you know everything. Kind of just learning kind of how I did about how I don't want to lead a family or necessarily lead my life. So I learned a lot about what not to do. I think I may have said that earlier. And so it's been really impactful to me, not just saying, I know what not to do. Okay, what do I do then? And so it's been really impactful to me, during COVID and some of the shutdowns. Home church was pretty huge. And so we had our small group with a couple guys that were older than me. Daryl was one of them. And then Aaron Green was another one of them. And just even learning and gleaming information from those guys about, just parenthood and being a husband and how to handle careers. I think it's super impactful. I think for the longest time, asking for advice, and I'm still not this way. I'm not one to ask for advice. I like to, kind of research on my own and do things.
I'll figure this out, man.
But asking for advice isn't weakness. Asking for help isn't weakness. I think, as men, we're designed that if you don't know how to do it, then you're either a failure, or you're just not trying hard enough. And that's why, the body of Christ is such a amazing thing. And just even outside of that, getting together with people that are in kind of similar stages of life. And then even guys that are, maybe a bit further down the timeline that can say, hey man, this stuff that you're struggling with this 6-year-old, it's going to breeze by in a moment. Man, you're going to miss these little tantrums and whatnot.
I think what I hear you say though, there's wisdom in obviously hanging around people in your own age that iron sharpens iron, but really, a Daryl or an Aaron who've gone before you, they're, roughly 15, 18, 20 years older than you.
For sure.
And helping you navigate certain areas. And I think early in my fatherhood or marriage, specifically fatherhood, because I didn't become a believer until I was 28, but certainly a mentor early on. But really talking to guys who had kids that were older and how they navigate. And that wisdom, I think it helped. I know it helped my daughters, helped our marriage. So good for you for being wise enough to ask. And I was just thinking this morning, literally on the way here, is even recently, I began asking for some help in some areas, really how to expose my podcast at a higher level.
For sure.
Asking for help, and it's becoming easier because my pride or my ego doesn't want me to.
For sure.
Because that's like a sign of weakness.
Yeah. Well, and it was clear to, have a guy like Justin Simnitt on to bolster that podcast. So, I mean, that's step one. So
right there. Amen. Well, that's exactly right. Well, the good news is we can learn from the younger guys too. So I show up often as a mentor, but I also show up as a mentee.
For sure.
And I think that's how the whole iron sharpens iron. If we bring truth and we bring the word of God, it can shape us and challenge us.
For sure. And it was impactful. I had helped your daughter find a house, a couple years back, a year back, something around there. And, serving in youth ministries was always really big for us. And, kind of like you said, the mentor-mentee role.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these kiddos are looking to you for advice and, to be praying for them and whatnot. And at that time, there was, several guys like, Ted and, around that age group that were really mentors to me. And, wives that were mentors to Megan that, even if it's not specifically go to somebody for help, it truly is just rubbing shoulders is more impactful than you'll ever know.
Yeah. It's funny. You and Megan are like a one-stop shop. You helped Molly and Parker buy a home, and then Megan did their wedding coordinating. So I was like,
that is true.
What a blessing.
Yeah.
So.
She's definitely the creative one. Yeah.
Man, you guys got the package deal, Again, you got to keep seeking the Lord, but just keep seeking him, and God's going to keep blessing you guys.
I appreciate that, buddy.
So, well, hey, Justin, great to have you on. We should get golf on the schedule. I know Daryl, he bugs me. He doesn't bug me. He asks me maybe on a weekly basis to go golfing. So I tend to need a little bit warmer weather.
Hopefully
if it's
we're getting
kind of
that soon.
Quasi raining, snowing, cold, I may or may not go.
Yeah,
in fact, I probably won't go.
I'm feeling that transition myself, that just going outside like, oh, why is my knee hurt today?
Yeah.
Just living.
Exactly. So let's get golf on the schedule. But, well, hey, I appreciate you, man. You're
too,
a good
buddy.
brother. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep praying for you guys. And, thanks for being on the show today.
Awesome.
And thanks for all the listeners out there that listen each week. We appreciate you. Please share this podcast with somebody you know, somebody who needs to be encouraged. And hopefully there wasn't too much sarcasm in this podcast, but Justin and I had a great time. And I think I learned some things about you that I didn't know. I didn't know you had your 3 triplet sisters.
That's always the one.
That's the one, man.
Yep.
So I'll have to go find a picture of you guys on your Facebook or Instagram and
There you go.
take a look. So anyway, appreciate you all. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next week. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.